with the arrival of Alone in the Wild Season 11. The venue is also set to be inside the Arctic Circle, somewhere south of the Arctic Ocean. It's not just 4,700 square miles. There is also a labyrinthine river system, and there are 8 months of the year, in a state of ice and snow. The lowest temperature was 32 degrees below zero, but it is rich in natural resources. There are traces of biological activity everywhere, like 40,000 moose fish and countless fish, and the 6,000 wolves that live here, with nearly 10,000 grizzly bears. And want to survive here, you have to be strong enough. You might not make it past your first day, and these players have to get used to it, face all accidents and difficulties alone, to survive to the end, and win that $50,000 prize. As the first day of competition arrives, all the players are ready to meet their own future. As the contestants took turns getting on the plane, this game also officially started the clock. First up is Tucker. Look at his excitement. It's supposed to be a bonus at the end of the game. It was a shoo-in, and watch him step in some unknown shit. It seems that God is very kind to him. I stepped in shit when I stepped outside, as he began to walk toward the woods. And he wants to win this competition. Not only do you practice whipping at home, still practicing all my wilderness survival skills, but it's all thanks to his wife, because she brought Tucker a treasure he wanted to be able to give to his children, a better future. It was a no-brainer to get into the game, all for the last $500,000, and become the superhero of the family. As he officially entered the forest, the whole person is also visible to the naked eye. Become serious. Although he had plenty of practice before he came, but he's still very nervous. But he still remembers the first thing about survival. That's dihydrogen monoxide, which no one can live without. But when he found the river, all of a sudden, a bad feeling came over me. I don't know what he saw or heard, but after he stood there for a while and began to walk forward again, when he reached the bank of the river, also found some wolf footprints. Looks like his hunch was right. There's even a bear up ahead, and a mother bear with a baby. That put Tucker in a bad mood. I didn't expect to find the river. You just give it up. The players on the other side are different. Williams said he wanted to win the game. Make sure you have enough food. First, he took out his fishing net and find a place to spread it early, so he can guarantee fish for the night. After he's finished getting things ready, he began to walk into the forest. William also experienced, after half an hour, success came to the river. Start getting ready to catch fish. Although he was right to fish first, but that's only because he won't. The way the bow and arrow are used, it's the only way to get food, and that's why he did it. It's because he started. Young lives on the edge of the place. There was no electricity or running water, but also gave him a rich hunting skill. But in this difficult environment, it still makes him feel bad. So he wants to be in this race. Get that $500,000 bonus. Let's move in for ourselves, for their grandchildren to change a good environment. As he sets up his fishing net, he turned his head toward the forest to build a shelter here. It's not just trees, after all, and a good cut. It provides good protection against the cold wind. After a few hours, they found it in the river, so he quickly pulled it up, put the fish in the net, let him go unceremoniously. I didn't realize William's hands were so slippery. This is for people who spend a lot of time fishing in the sea. It was a disaster. You know, that fish is 25 inches. If you eat there on the cheap, you can eat it for 2 days. And now he's probably going to be hungry today. Let's look at another contestant. Pets is very relaxed, too. I can't believe I'm still scratching my stomach. But then he suddenly made a discovery. It turned out to be a wild reindeer. This surprised Pets. I even think it's tummy scratching. This is what happens. But as he inched closer, the deer just ran away. And this one is really good. He's not like the other players. Pets loves being out in the wild, even at that 9-to-5 job. If you have the time, he ran into the forest. I even feel like would rather live a life of poverty and maintain an outdoor life. But he still has filial piety. Want to win this game, and then take the $500,000 to make sure the old guys live, even though he lost the deer. But he remains optimistic. Just get on with it. Build yourself a future sanctuary, although it is very empty. But this is the best place he's ever found. It's basically a plane, after all. But when he built the outline, only to find that it looks like a shelter, it was a little small. But there is no way now. Can only continue to make mistakes. As Paz puts the tarp down, and the shelter was built, and Paz is really lazy. I can't believe we're just going to do it today. Not getting ready for your own dinner. Unfortunately, we learned that. Let's take another look at the other contestant, Cubby. He really loves his wife, too. It's just the beginning of living out there. I can't believe I started thinking about it. Can only stand there and remember the past. Thinking about his sick wife. And he wanted to be able not to be separated from her. It's constant training for yourself. So I could get that $500,000 bonus. Provide a good life for your wife. And when he came back, and he started walking toward the forest right away. Find yourself a place where you can build shelter. That way it's guaranteed. I can have a comfortable environment tonight. And on the road, suddenly I saw a squirrel. He quickly raised his bow, an arrow. I shot him right at the rat. But the technology needs to be improved. Even the arrow broke. It's the immediate loss of a life-saving weapon. We had to keep looking for a place to build shelter. And he's after hours. It is also the beginning of the construction of the home. But then he thought of his wife again. Says he's out of week. I only saw my family for a dozen hours. There is simply not enough time. Oh my God, this is really short. But he didn't want to build the shelter first. I built a bonfire, then start boiling water on that. Finally began to build their own shelter. And he did it very simply. Just tie a rope around the tarp, then put something on the air vent. And such a shelter. Not much use for a storm though, but you can see around very well. Always be ready to run. I have to say he really cares about his life. As the night begins to fall, our player William, he's already in his sanctuary. Although he built it very small, but it was covered with a lot of weeds. Provides good softness for yourself. Give yourself a good night's sleep tonight. Keep your spirits up for tomorrow's adventure. And Tucker on the other side is still awake. Instead, he was there to observe his surroundings. After all, it's always around here. The mama bears and the wolves. As scary as it is. But he had no other choice. Another player at the same time. But Pets heard a strange noise. When he began to listen carefully, I found this thing moving very gently, or even disappear altogether. But that didn't put Pets to sleep. And the creature outside is nothing but a bear. When the next morning came, Pets threw something out too, ready to give up this place. After all, we had bears last night, but he was able to function normally today. Still feel very happy. After all, we only escaped from Bear's mouth last night. As he gradually takes things apart, still thinking about what happened last night. And Michaela is not far away. The shelter has just been built, although the time is a little late. But we made it through the first day. And when she first built the shelter, I saw a flock of ducks swimming by the river. That gave Michaela an idea. Like this pile of grass in my hand. Make them little ducklings. Lure back those who swim by. And they hunted and killed them brutally. As he finished the duck, although it doesn't look like much, but after sticking it in the river, that's a lot like a duck. And she is very confident about this competition. And it all started with his life. She grew up hunting. Not only can I be independent, hunting wolves in the forest, even with the help of her own husband, can bring a full-grown bear home. But they don't have children yet. And the reason is fear. Cannot provide a good environment for its growth. So she wanted to take home $500,000. Although she spoke of ambition, but it doesn't change. Now her stomach is growling. Although the nets have been successfully lowered into the river. But the net did not unfold. And that made Michaela a little uncomfortable. And as she returned to find her tools. But I saw wolf footprints on the road. This made her very excited. After all, it represents. She can hunt wolves on her own again. And Michaela was having a good time. Cubby on the other side is a different story. He's at his feet. Found some cranberries. This makes him very happy. After all, this is where he started the game. The first meal was simple. But at least I got some energy in. Because Cubby didn't sleep well last night. So today he decided to find a place. Set up your own shelter. After all, this is his future home. Even though he's hungry right now. But we still have to build the house first. After all, it's okay to skip a meal or two. If I fall asleep at night, attacked by native creatures here, then there won't be any future, not to mention a better life for your wife. So take this temporary home. It's got a broad vision and a firm vision. As he finished building some, Cubby was about to take a break. He even turned off the camera. He was just there. What's the shelter going to look like? All right, let's see what Tucker's up to. He's better than Cubby. What does he at least go out and do? And he doesn't even have a plan. Even sitting there silly. Don't want to do anything. Still, it was noticeable. His mood was very low. Looks like he misses his 2 babies at home. But shouldn't you try harder? For the victory of this game, lay a solid foundation. And then suddenly his stomach started ringing. But he's still sitting there. After 2 hours, he's still out looking for food. I guess hunger is still the only thing that drives people. It's just a random piece of fruit. That's what you put in your mouth. Sure enough, he went on for a while. My nose just started bleeding. Even he was a little incredulous. I even tried in my mouth. And all it did was make his blood. The flow is worse. He's still wondering why. What else could be the reason? It means you can't be replaced. Fortunately, the process didn't take long. Or he might have been the first one out. But this bloodshed, make him think he wants food, and preferably protein. Tucker, standing by the river. An idea quickly formed in my mind. That is to catch a fish here. Looks like all the players are the same. The first food source, mostly river fish. And while he was trying to make something, suddenly there's a fish up my ass. Fell out of the sky, but he didn't see it. Let our Tucker stay busy. Let's see what Michaela's up to. Looks like he's onto his duck. Not so confident, looking for fish by the river. But here he saw bare footprints. But that didn't hurt him, and even that let him find out. There must be plenty of fish here. Otherwise, there would be no bears at all. It made her look forward to her own net. It would have such a harvest. But when he pulled the pole up, but there was nothing on it. But there's a reason. That was the problem she hadn't solved before. It has a direct impact on the present. So she had to hurriedly repair. And after everything is done, he put the net back again. And on the way back, I saw a perfect stone on the road. This makes Michaela, who loves tradition. The whole body is full of power. Then prayers began, and William on the other side. It appears on the 3rd day. Not much to gain these days, huh? But he's so hungry right now. They had to go out and look for food. But he was also handy. I picked a fruit and ate it. But he seems to know what it is. I can't believe you're talking about this. It makes your butt itch. It's the biggest surprise in the world. And after he walked on, suddenly there was a discovery. There's a rabbit trail right here. But William needs it now. And under his constant advance, all of a sudden, we find their droppings. This makes him very excited, because it means the neighborhood. There they are. As he finished the trap, it made the whole person very excited, even though he doesn't have anything right now. But William thought it would be soon. You're going to have everything. Looks like that fruit is a little hallucinogenic. This is starting to be a daydream. As he continues to move forward, once again, they came to a stream. I just didn't realize he'd just gotten here. I found a fish hanging out by the river. He quickly picked it up, although the fish did not hang. But I feel in William's hands. This one may not be far off. Follow him along the river. Suddenly I saw a few. As he picked up the fish, this is very strange. This is a gift from the gods. Although these fish are not very big, but it has to be paid back sooner or later. But the 4th day came. Michaela just got up this morning and began his prayer. She really loves tradition. When Michaela is done with everything, he started to check his nets. But she found her own grass duck. It didn't attract any other ducks, although it made her very angry. But when the nets are pulled up, something even angrier came up. The net was in the water for a day. I didn't get any results, but nothing could be done about it. So she turned her net in a different place to continue in the river. Keep waiting. What will bite? And on his return, there was a windfall, a squirrel's kidney, and it looks very fresh. This seems to have surprised her very much. It makes Michaela feel like she's dreaming right now. So she quickly began to build a fire. In case this really is a dream, follow him and stick his waist in the branch. They put on the side of the fire. Make your first meal in days. Although that's a small amount, but still makes Michaela happy. And Cubby on the other side. Get up in your old shelter, ready to set out in search of food, to secure the new shelter. He intends to build it slowly. With him back in his new shelter, grab your own bow, an arrow, and immediately set out to find food. It's a bit of a rough road, though. There are obstacles everywhere. But to feed myself, Cubby was still there, and that led him to a discovery. With moose droppings under your feet, and very fresh, that means they're nearby. Cubby quickly set out, but then he made another discovery. It's like he's in bear territory, but that doesn't stop it. He follows the footsteps of food. It actually made him more positive. After all, if it's fast enough, the grizzly will not react. And under his constant advance, suddenly there was an accident. That's on his thigh, with an arrow of his own. This makes him very speechless. Never would have thought. My own arrow from the barrel. He just slipped into his lap as he cut the clothes off his pants. Found in the bad things. Still have a nice security. The arrow just missed his femoral artery. As he pulled out the tourniquet he was carrying, he quickly tied his legs. But the pain there won't get any less. And this wound, it had a serious impact on his game. This is making it really hard for Cubby. So he decided to go back to the shelter. But he's a little confused right now. As he tries to move forward, I noticed the wound was better now. So he removed the tourniquet. But I found that the wound was still bleeding. And there's nothing he can do about it. We have to tie things back. And now he's at his worst. Call the show crew after all. Just carry on with it. But the pain of the wound was dull. It just forces him to make a choice. Followed him on the phone. And I made the smartest choice I've ever made. With the show crew and the team doctor arriving. After a simple inquiry and review, I'm glad he made the right choice. Although he's done with the show now, and missing out on the $500,000, but he was able to save the leg. With Cubby in the speedboat, his playing time has come to an end, although his departure is unknown to the other players. But it's good for them, too. After all, who could have imagined such an accident? Well, that's all for this program. Give it a thumbs up, and let's look forward to the next episode. This man is out of luck. Someone else didn't just catch a squirrel, even caught a fish, and he wasn't just hungry for days. I can't believe I lost my supplies backpack, causing himself to lose the flint. Can only guard the push behind the fire. Otherwise, it's in the extreme cold. Rely on their own integrity and hard resistance. Although on the fourth day of the race, one of the players has already withdrawn. But there are a lot of players out there. Let's go back to day one again. With Clegg here, he started with a laugh, and then very happy expression. I finally got myself into the race. Because he always signed up before. I never got elected, although he hasn't participated in it before. But he also knew the dangers here. So he quickly began to prepare it. Bear spray provided by the show crew. After all, he doesn't want to fail here. When he found out he'd been elected, quickly found another old man, revisited it from him, a way to live alone in the wilderness, to be able to win this competition, get that $500,000 bonus, let the family have a more stable life. He followed him into the forest, and he clutched the bow and arrow in his hand. Let's see if we can get started. You can hunt a moose, so you can live in peace. The first hard time, follow him out of the forest, right here on the beach. Saw the footprints of a bear, and it looks like a lot of them. This is starting to worry Mr. Clegg. After all, those bears don't know when. I'm going to hit him right back. So he immediately turned back to the forest, and he hasn't been moving very long. Suddenly, I saw a squirrel. So he quickly raised his bow and arrow. With that arrow flying, Clegg quickly stepped forward, see if the squirrel was hit. With him carrying a big rat, get in front of the camera, and it shows the squirrel's hand. And this big rat's hand, it's also a symbol of his first night. There will be no starvation. But he had another idea. As he pulls up his sleeve, showing the tattoo on top, he smeared the blood from his hands on it. According to him, it can ward off evil spirits. Then let Clegg do it there. Let's look at the other contestants. When Sarah was in front of the camera, she was picking sticks out there, trying to get that thing in the house. I don't know how she got into this mood. That's where they pick these things out. And the camera behind him. All of a sudden, it started ringing. Looks like after she got in here. I never paid attention to these things again. As she changes the battery and set out for the hunt. Don't look at Sarah as an older woman, but she's definitely not a simple person. Sarah got married. She and her husband moved to the forest to live. Although there is no money in this, but every day just needs. Try to survive in the forest. And that gives it a wealth of survival skills. But now Sarah and her husband. I'm older now. If we win this game, then you can retire early, living a comfortable life there. But because of her husband's health problems, the race is hers only. As Sarah left the camp, but she doesn't seem to bring any kind of weapon with you. I wonder how she guarded against bears and borzoi.
I'm not afraid of them.
That's amazing. I didn't know she was so. I was able to say that. But it's not like she's after the meat. It's the berries that grow here. After all, the winter here is too long. Those berries don't survive at all. There won't be any access to it. As she went through hours of searching, found some too. And it's not just fruit. There are also mushrooms. As she finished picking things and began to push on, just in front of a lake, and she's seeing the environment here. Sarah felt like it was perfect for fishing. I just didn't realize there was a beaver here. If we can catch this creature, the next few days, I can guarantee my life. And that's what Sarah really regrets. He set out without a bow and arrow. Sure enough, a man can't be too confident. After all, God doesn't know when. It will bring you something beautiful. And how can you not grasp it? While Sarah was still there regretting it. Another contestant, Blake. It turned out to be the hunt right there. But he doesn't seem to have gained anything. Not even berries. It made him a little uncomfortable. I'm a little lost as to what's next. But then he remembered why he had come. That's when he was born. There are no supplies nearby. There weren't even a few people around. That leaves him with few friends. So he had to make his own fun. Then he thought of the wilderness. Where to hunt alone. And this orange game exists. Just the one he hasn't been to. He was very happy about it. Plus that last $500,000 bonus. It can also provide a better environment for the family. Let your children not be like you. As he found an environment, he immediately began to cut down trees. Build yourself the first home in this game. After all, it's the first big thing outside of food. Followed him to the roof. And a testament to this family. That's how stable it is. But there are problems. So he began to rebuild. And Clegg on the other side. After I got the squirrel, and he took his entrails and fished them in the river. Then they returned to the forest. Shelters began to be built, even though he only uses a few sticks. Use this tarp. It became his sanctuary. Although this is very simple to build and doesn't look solid, but he still believes it. Straight back to the river again. Get ready to see that hook. Is there any hook? As he pulls up the fishing line, there's something rolling around there too. And this fish in the hand. It's perfect for Clegg, although he wasted some of his guts. But he also got a fish. As he filled the pot with river water, started cooking over the campfire. Then he began to clean up the fish by the river and put in a pot to cook. It took a while though, but he roasted the squirrel ahead of time. After his fish is cooked, I got in front of the camera, trying to seduce us. Good thing I don't like fish that much. Otherwise, it would have been tempting. As the next day came, Peter was there watching the sunrise, even though he was in there in a stupor. But that's just because he didn't know what to do anymore. As he looked into the shelter, I decided to start the day first, and that is to look at this beautiful view, then solve the problem of thirst. After all I got in here yesterday, I've never drunk water like this. Slowly rising with the sun, he collected some wood, started taking out the flint and lighting the bonfire. But he was there for a long time. That's where it's not. Not even a spark on the wood. This made him very anxious. Have no idea. It's just a little bit of wet wood. I can't believe I can't. So he made a big decision. That is to quench thirst first. Wait a while to light it. Even though the man has a hard time lighting a fire. But he's a very knowledgeable librarian. There's even the practice of surviving outside. And it can be done with limited materials. Make the most of it. But he entered the competition for the purpose. It's not the $500,000 prize. It's about giving it to your kids. Know that when faced with difficulties, don't think about giving up first. Try to work it out. With Peter out of the jungle, came to a pond. Let him discover a beautiful scene, although very beautiful, and a lot of fresh water. But these are not drinkable yet. After all, he still doesn't have a fire source. If I drink this water, it won't take long to get out of this game. So he started back to camp. After all, we're on the road. What if there's some kind of food? You might even find something to hunt. But on the way, Peter made an unexpected discovery. It turned out to be a bear's poop. But after Peter's analysis, the bear isn't around here anymore. So he went back again. As Peter took out the flint again, I pulled it up again. Although this time it was successful, but it soon went out again. But after Peter's efforts, I managed to set it on fire. But now it's noon. He started at 6 o'clock in the morning. The fire was lit until 10 o'clock now. And Blake on the other side. Much better than Peter. After all, he has started eating now. It's just some small fruit, but he can be of some help. So he quickly took out a bag. Collect the fruit. But then Black had another thought. Give the fruit a squeeze. Well, it looks a lot like toothpaste. It reminds me that he hasn't brushed his teeth yet. Although the fruit here looks a lot, but there's still no meat. As he went deeper and deeper into the forest, all of a sudden, I heard a squirrel. But he wasn't confident in his archery, so they started making traps. It's pretty handy after all, as Blake went to gather firewood, but made an unexpected discovery. So he quickly followed and took out his bow and arrow to shoot the arrows straight out and hurriedly went up.
Thank you, little buddy, for giving me yourself.
As he takes the squirrel back to camp, quickly began to skin it, although it's a little hard to pull out, but let it be done successfully, with the squirrels burning over the campfire. Also after an hour, the contents are also successfully cooked, as he ate the meat into his mouth. Turns out this stuff is really good. Just a little more salt would help. And Sarah on the other side, after setting up his own camp, but also began to do their own grooming. With him done with everything, it is also beginning again for shelter. The subsequent construction work began. After all, this family now, it's not very strong yet, although she tried very hard. But Sarah's belly wasn't strong enough. So Sarah went down to the river again, ready to see if the beaver is still around. Followed her to the river with her bow and arrow. He squatted in a corner, wait for the beaver to show up, although this is a little long, but still lets Sarah see it. As the beavers get closer, Sarah fired the arrow right away, although the response just got really good. But nothing has surfaced. This is Sarah worried. But in order to get something, Sarah quickly took off her clothes and walked slowly into the river, walking carefully with her inside and a successful arrow out. But there are no beavers on it. It made it hard for Sarah. After all, it's not just a waste of time. And I soak my clothes. Even on the water right now, there's no beavers left. Sarah had to go back to camp, continue to endure this day without food. With the arrival of the third day of the competition, Jack didn't wake up on his own, but by the nearby Hydong Green. A wake-up call was provided, and that made it hard for Jack. Stood there with him for a moment. I decided to go fishing, but he spent a lot of time in camp, only to find that his backpack is missing. I even looked back for a while, and you can't see anything. This made Jack very sad. After all, if there's no fishing line, then you have to make it yourself. After all, this is his future. After hours of labor, it was also successfully completed. Follow him to the river. Just throw it into the water. And Peter on the other side. I also started my own work. Although now he is very hungry, but we still have to make shelters. After all, he had a humble home. For this he must build hard today. And it's a permanent shelter, not the temporary ones. And that means a lot of work. But now the weather is getting cold. For that he had to make camp in advance. After all, if it's too late, the moss on the land is dead. So his bed won't be any softer. As Peter brought some pine needles, also began to make the bed, while he was still trying. The fourth day came slowly. In Jack's camp, though, the nets were successfully placed. But since his backpack is missing, he'll have a hard time starting a fire again now. For this, he must prepare. That's why he cooked it in a pot. It's not a food. It's some dry rot. The water above it will dry up. As he took out a piece of bark, trying to use it as a container. This is very strange. As he finished everything, and we successfully built the container. Then he pulled out a belt buckle. And this thing is made of carbon steel. It can replace the roll of flint. Although his spark is small, but he can still succeed. Those coals light up a little. As he did an experiment, succeeded in reigniting the fire. He also succeeded in making tinderboxes. And when the fifth day comes, Jack quickly lifted the net. but there was nothing on it. But then he saw the beaver again, but he didn't want to lose an arrow. Jack planted a willow branch for this purpose. Where can we see if we can attract the beavers? Not sure why, though. Those beavers will be attracted. But Jack was confident, as he sat down on the side of the grass. Also began to wait for the beaver to come. After all, it's a good energy saver. Jack hasn't eaten yet. I only ate some wild fruits on the roadside. But he waited till 10 o'clock, and still nothing happened. It made him feel bad. And Clegg on the other side. It was a little bit of a whimsy. With your own quiver, that is, as a bottle of water. Although all this is very simple. But it's a good idea. But that's where his arrows will be. Just like Cubby, put on your lap. And at that moment, he took out a leather and cut it up and put a stick inside to tie it. Then he put an arrow on it. And the finished product is very good. It even looks more convenient than a quiver. This guy is really smart. Followed him to the beach. I saw a lot of footprints again. There's even a moose. And it looks very fresh. So Clegg quickly followed. Let's see if we can catch anything. After all, there are not many opportunities like this. And when he was about to come out of the forest, also successful in seeing a moose, it's just a little far away from him. There's even a swamp in front of us. But to be able to eat, Clegg walked on. As he stopped, he changed his strategy and stopped moving forward. It draws them in through sound, although this is a very difficult voice. But he still managed to attract the moose. But it wasn't close enough, so he continued to simulate the sound of a moose. And that's what made him successful again. Keep that moose coming closer. So he hurried like a tiger, began to move slowly forward. When that moose came into view, Clegg quickly raised his bow and arrow. Although the first arrow was successful, but it didn't kill him, Clegg quickly fired another arrow, though he did hit the moose again. But the bad thing was the deer. He ran away with his badly wounded body. This makes him very uncomfortable. You know, that was for a meal ticket, even one that lasts half a month. I can get a meal ticket without going hungry. He just slipped out in front of me, and it's not even likely to happen again. This situation today, it's basically impossible. Well, that's all for this program. Give it a thumbs up, and let's look forward to the next episode. This woman is so cruel. In order to be in this game, to win that mysterious prize, the blood in his abdomen, spit it out in the river as fish feed. Although it looks very disgusting, but I didn't think she'd actually get something. And the fish looks beautiful. When the challenge came on the third day, the player Tucker is still sealed to his bed. Did not leave bed because of Dawn. And the reason why he has this phenomenon, because the weather got very low last night. Even when he wants to go to the bathroom, I just grab a random oil can. I'll do it in my own bed. It's elegant and convenient, but it also made him understand. Now the shelter is not enough. Had to build a warmer one. But look how thinly dressed he is. I don't even think he's that cold. I just don't want to get out of bed at night. To go to the bathroom under the covers. As he dug there, soon a square hole was made, but it doesn't look very smooth. So Tucker hurriedly made another adjustment. But he didn't do it for long. I can't believe I'm too tired. If you want to take a break, just didn't expect this stop. It's straight to the fourth day of the race. Let's see what the other contestant is doing. Paz is making fishing nets. It's just a finished product. Doesn't look like much, does it? And very small. But Paz is confident. They even put it in the river and fixed it to the river. And after he took care of everything, turned head unexpectedly stressed again. The net will be in stock tomorrow. But I still don't believe it, you know? With him back at camp, after grabbing a few things, he returned to the river again. I actually started fishing there. Looks like he's really hungry. I just put the net down. This began to catch fish on the other side. But what's the bait on his hook? But just as he was getting back on the line, suddenly I saw a flock of ducks. So he quickly picked up the bow and arrow and mimicked the sound of those ducks. But Paz didn't seem attractive. I just missed the perfect moment. But then he realized, next to his equipment, there seems to be a duck. As he gets closer, also confirmed that it was a duck. But when he was seen, the ducks flew quickly, even if he shoots the arrow. But it still missed, and that arrow ended up in the river. And there's no way to get it back. This made him very uncomfortable. You can only take off the clothes on your back. jump into the water to retrieve it. But when Pets stepped into the water, it seems that the river is really cold. And the reason he prefers to be frozen like this, go down into the water to get an arrow. Because they only have a few arrows. If we're missing one or two, that's in the later survival. It's going to be more difficult, and Paz now regrets it. Why didn't you attack earlier? You have to watch the last one, or you might get a duck. Well, then let Pets live to regret it. We can't let his emotions get in the way. Want to see the other contestant, Blake, and he's the one we need to learn from. All in one morning. I made myself a table, but this thing looks like it's out there. I don't think it was for eating. It's a tool table. But then he suddenly picked up a bow and arrow and listened carefully to the sound. It sounded like the voice of a squirrel as he raises his bow and arrows. Although the first shot missed, but his second shot was successful. And when Blake got the squirrel, he said he wanted to start class. You want to show me how to dissect a squirrel? Although his operation is very violent, but he's still very fast. He's got the squirrel. Soon she was stripped naked. As he cut open the squirrel's belly, they just throw it away. Then he went back to camp, and he found himself in possession of 4 rat skins. So in order not to waste these things, then he took the moss and stuffed it into the rat skin and sealed the opening. But what is he trying to do? You just got kicked out of here. You're wasting your time. And Michaela on the other side, after so many days, her fake duck doesn't seem to be working. Not even a real duck on one side. Michaela began. Learn their sounds. But it seems to have driven the ducks away. And that was hard on Michaela. But now, there is no other way. Just have to go see yourself before. What do you get from the nets you've set up? But when she was on the road, there was an unexpected bonus. That is the burdock at the foot. Although the leaves are inedible, but his roots do, and the nutritional value is not low. But he's in medicine. It is often used as a laxative. I mean, this one's pretty big, but it has very few usable roots. When the 5th day comes, Peter, 43, got up early, and some work has been done. And the reason he's so motivated, because when he got here, except for eating a few fruits, I never ate anything again. It made him mad with hunger, but he managed it before he went crazy. Make everything you use for fishing. He followed him to the river. Look at the calm water. That is very sure of myself. Able to reel the fish into your hand. As he throws the hook, I also started fishing, but he's been hungry for so long, and the strength to pull with the fish. But look at all the fat on him. Should still be able to hold on for a few more days. But then his hook, all of a sudden, there's a creature biting. So he actually pulled it straight to the shore. And this giant pike. For Peter, who has failed for 4 days, that is, the whole person is very excited. After all, it was his first success. With the arrival of the 6th day, after Pets got out of the shelter, I have made an important goal for today. That is to fill your stomach first. As he left the camp, he hurried to the river, ready to see how his net is doing. As he gets closer, it looks like there's fish on it. And when Paz saw it,
Boom shakalaka.
you can tell he's really happy, even though this pike is dead. But it looks like it's pretty big. As he cleaned up the fish, quickly ran back to the camp. He took his pot back. As he scales the fish, quickly cut it into pieces. Just so much fish. How to store it becomes a big problem again. And at that moment, he looked at that. Already cooked fish. I got it too. That is, to eat it all in your own stomach. And Tucker on the other side. I was reminded of my shelter again. Seems like it's been a long time. So he hurried again. The construction of the camp began. As he laid the first foundation, the others will be done soon. But building a house is tiring. Just let his already hungry belly go. Began a constant rebellion there. And then he heard the squirrel. So he quickly picked up the bow and arrow and walked slowly forward, with the arrow flying from the bowstring. He went up at once. When he held the squirrel in front of the camera, Tucker was full of joy. Suddenly, he remembered something important. That on my own hats. And when he was in front of the camera wearing a hat, you look like a seasoned hunter. After he cleaned out the squirrels by the river, just put one of his calves. It was thrown into the river as bait. And see if he can catch the fish with the cooked squirrel meat. I picked it out slowly, and this meat makes Tucker hungry. I ate it immediately, even without any seasoning. But Tucker eats very well. But since he hadn't eaten meat for a long time, what Tucker eats is called a discreet one. You can see how much he wanted the meat. While he was still there eating with gusto, suddenly the fishing line seemed to react. Quickly step forward. The fishing line is constantly recycled. It just pulls the fish to the shore. Although the fish almost returned to the river, but he still got him. And this continuous harvest make Tucker feel lucky. It seems to be getting better. When he was still there and happy, Peter on the other side was hard at work. After all, he only ate a little fish. There's no way to fill that empty stomach. As he lowered his net into the water, I waited for several hours. As he returned to the net again, I just pulled it up, and the fishing nets appear in a moment. Just make Peter happy. All you want to do is dance. It's not a small fish, after all, and his other fishing line. I can't believe it's the same fish, and there's a lot more of it. This Peter who's been starving for days. I feel so happy and stupid. He tried to let go of his fish. After all, this pike isn't very tasty, is it? And what much food is there? Makes him a little worried about how to store it. But he still has a lot of knowledge about wildlife. So he started sawing the wood there, ready to make a simple smoker. So you can eat the fish. Perform a simple dehydration. Make it last for a long time. As he put the charcoal on the bottom and began to spread moss around it to make sure the smoke does its job. As time slowly passes, the fish is almost done. Then let's look at William. I can't believe he just made the hook. I managed to catch a fish, and this fish has become William's breakfast on the 7th day. But when he had enough to eat and drink, I was ready to look at the trap I had made before. After all, it's been out there for days. If you don't check it out, an untempted prey, it becomes food for other animals. And when he got there, found out they got a rabbit. Although this animal is not very big, but it's the whole game. The first rabbit to be hunted, worthy of show-off. But when he caught the rabbit in his hands, turns out it looks like it could last 2 meals. So he quickly took it back to the camp and hid it in a hole. After all, it is the security of the future. But Michaela on the other side didn't go out looking for food. I'm fixing up the camp from home. After all, the weather is getting colder now. And when she's done, she pulls out a bucket. I can't believe she's hiding all this fruit. Although these cranberries are small, but each one offers 25 calories. Then she took out another pot of soup, and this is the burdock root, but doesn't taste good. What Michaela ate was a pain, but he did it to fill his stomach, or to eat it clean. As she left the camp, once again came to the river where the fishing nets were placed, followed him to the front. There seems to be a harvest in the net, but when he lifted the stick out of the water, you can see it very clearly. This fish is really big, so she quickly dissected it and disemboweling it. But then she felt sick. He quickly put the knife away. He picked up his camera and walked to the river. She just threw up her breakfast, although it looks a little gross. But the fish in the river love it. When he stopped feeling bad, so he went back. The mutilation of the fish continues. With the movement of her nisho, Michaela will soon fish, cut into pieces of white meat. But don't watch her move fast. I thought she did it all the time.
All right, there's my first processed fish.
With the arrival of day 8, Peter, who gets up early, is going to make a ladder, so you can get the fish. Keep it out of the reach of ordinary animals, even though this thing is very simple. But Peter was very tired. After all, it's like daylight here. It was 18 hours long. This made Peter very tired. I can't even cut this wood. But after cutting my own hand, the whole person woke up in an instant. Although it looks like a serious injury, but there's no need to worry. The show has a first aid kit for them. This kind of problem can be solved. As he closed the wound, he began to build the ladder again. But now he's not the same. The speed is changing rapidly. In a few moments, the ladder on hand was finished, and he saw that the fish was still being smoked. Then he came to the river again, ready to see if you got anything now. But not this time. Instead, he lost the fish he was already hooked on. And now he's not just weak. I even thought about my family. In an instant, Peter became emotional. But he made his way to the back of the hook, with him on the other side thinking about his family, while constantly recycling fishing line. Very successful without any gain. So they started straight back to camp. And when he got back to the shelter, it is extremely tiring physically and mentally. Even the repressed feelings inside. I can't hold it down anymore. Suddenly, Peter was in tears. So he turned off the camera. When the time passed, half an hour later, Peter opened the thing again. But he's not at the camp right now. Instead, near the river. The only thing that never changes is the tear. And that's where he opened his heart, talking about the pain inside all the time. Although he has plenty of fish now. There is even a warm camp. But I always feel depressed. Even feel this survival is very difficult. Even if it's probably all the players right now. The richest and most likely to win. But those tears just won't stop. The heart even incomparably tormented. So Peter made a big decision.
Hi, this is Peter. I'm officially tapping out.
As he finished the call, the show crew got here pretty quickly. Peter, after seeing the crowd, it's also told again, why do you want to quit? That's when he found out to participate in this competition. The hardest part is not survival. It's an emotional challenge within. When he tells everything, I was suddenly happy. As he finished packing up his things, I also know my own heart. Family is more important than everything else. Probably just lonely people. You know what he's thinking right now, even though he's out of the game right now. But there are plenty of players on the field. I don't know who else will quit. Well, that's all for this program. Give it a thumbs up, and let's look forward to the next episode. Someone who's always out there trying to survive. I came across this situation. They basically just go home. It could be life-threatening if we continue. But this contestant didn't have that option. It's a simple dressing of the wound. First, he prayed to the fishing net he had set up. I managed to pull in 2 fish. It seems that sometimes God still think about us. The 8th day of solitary wilderness came. Living alone, Blake decided on this warmer day. Wash that dirty head clean. After all, it will be some time. The weather is going to get colder. Of course, it's the same now. It's the grass, really. Can you wash your head? It's done so quickly. Is it because the water is too cold? I dare not wash anymore. You really are a little timid. Follow the normal procedure. Now it's time for food. Blake felt the same way. A flash came to the river. Now, he noticed a difference. There's a fish in the water. So he quickly began to pull the line back. Sure enough, there was one on it. Seems a little small. I don't know if I'll get enough to eat. To make sure the fish doesn't jump around, the man made a cruel cut. Oh, that's a little brutal. Then it's back to camp to cook. Not for long. Not only is the fish finished, there's even a loaf of bread on the table. It's not from this thing. Looks like someone's cheating. Forget it. Look at William on the other side. Why is this old man still building a house? It's already the 8th day, and the finished product comes out of this. Why is it so simple? I guess this guy's not very skilled, huh? Suddenly, he had an idea. Is to build yourself a stove. I don't know what he's going to use it for, but he's such a small place. Isn't it more crowded to build this thing? Why not build it outside? He's been at it for a while. Spotted turtle doves flying by outside. Quickly came out. Looks like this guy's hungry too. But this thing is not so easy to catch. So a stick and a piece of wire are combined. Made a noose. Well, it looks pretty good. I just don't know how it works. After walking some distance, see a chicken? Still a bird. Can't make out what it is. It's all meat to him anyway. After his trial, success failed. But failure is fucking success. This time he made another discovery. It was there for a while, and he managed to catch it. When I get my hands on it, he quickly snapped his neck. Although there is no picture, but you can see the state of this thing. He's like a hamster at this point. I hid the food in one, somewhere only he knows. It's so damn safe even for us. After he returned to the arrest site, a lot of birds were found. Quickly put the pole forward. I don't know why I'm here. Seems like a big world. All sorts of things. With the advent of the 9th day, Sarah. What are you doing standing by the river? I think he was hungry, catching fish. But it didn't seem to work out. This did not return to the camp. Start playing with the leaves. Either you work or you work. How can you be attracted to these birds? Attraction doesn't matter. Why don't you look at the meat? Of all people, you were out watching. Maybe it'll bring you luck. When it was almost noon, Sarah, out on the hunt again. Erm, why is it grass again? Maybe you want to lose weight. But you're in this situation. You're doing this because you want to see God. Good thing I woke up later. Start hunting for meat. I'm afraid this guy's going to pass out in here. On the road, she suddenly made a discovery, quickly put the camera down, and began to use the bow and arrow in his hand. He followed him. You could see the birds on the ground. That's how this thing died. I don't see any arrows. It must have been a fall. Forget it. Whatever. Sarah took it to the river anyway. Physically cut it. It's a little bloody. As good people, we don't look. After she took care of everything, you put on the fire to cook, while holding the grass in front of you. Perform a simple stir-fry. Look at the meal this way. It's pretty good. Can supplement a lot of body needs. And order your food fast. Back to Blake. He seemed to have a pain in his stomach. He doesn't even know. Is it your stomach or your back? But he kept making things. I just don't know what's going on. And he's starting to miss his family. Say it there with a wife. Been married for over 10 years. That's the first time I've been away from her. Looks like he's a family man. Like every contestant. They're both very family-oriented. That's when he suddenly turned off the camera. I don't know what happened. Good thing a few hours later, he opened it again. But I got a chicken in my hand. Why don't you show us? I guess we're not friends anymore. Even this kind of thing has to be prevented. It's too late for you to tell the story. I don't want to hear it. Then he plucked the fur off the chicken. Prepare to use it as an arrow feather. It's the hair on the back of the arrow. Then he began to hurt again. I don't know what's wrong with it. After dissecting the chicken, and he kindled a fire, started his own journey of kitchen gods. But the pain was always there. Made him wonder if it was. Caught some kind of unknown virus. The more Black thought about it, the more frightened he became. And then he turned the camera off, a little speechless. After the 10th day of solitude, Sarah was starting to miss her family and took out a photo. That's what it looks like up there. It looks like a child drew it. According to her, the grandchildren did this. Yeah, it does look good. She thought about it for a while. He got up again. Start making things. That's what this little thing does. That's a lot of wire to waste. It kind of looks like a trap. That deadly weapon. I don't know if it works. She was there for a long time anyway. Made a couple of these things. He took it and went out of the camp. Sure enough, that's what I'm talking about. But after she opened the trap, but there was nothing in it. Now when did you set it up? It's strange. Looks like this guy. And kept secret from us. Then she picked up her bow and arrow. Looked for food to eat. But I didn't see anything on the road. I found a big mushroom. And it's really big. This is very surprising. Hurry up and collect it right there. That's where you got a lot of bruises. That seems like a lot. They all use coats. Pick up all the stuff. Quickly began to bring back to the camp. Blake on the other side. I slept until 3 o'clock in the afternoon. The timing is good. That makes me jealous. And now Blake. The stomach still hurts there. Not only has it not diminished in the slightest, it got even more intense. He doesn't want to move right now. But now all I can do is get up. After all, he hasn't eaten yet. This is him opening a bag. Quickly began to eat cooked chicken. But he had no appetite. Eating, that is one with chi weakness. Then he started walking around, trying to get the body to fight the virus. So he came to the river again. But now he has no strength. After returning to camp, there was silence for a while. I picked up the satellite phone, finished the game, and the reason he couldn't hold on, because his pain didn't just go away. I haven't even gone to the bathroom in over 10 days. It could give him a heart attack, but it's over so soon. It made him very uncomfortable. I was hoping to give it to my family, for a better future, and now it's failed, despite his performance in the game. Not so bright, but he was very strong. This is very worth learning. After all, most people nowadays, they don't have that quality. After he came to the river, he got on the boat that left. As the 11th day came, there are 7 men left on the court. The game was lost in an instant, and William was shameless, taking your clothes off on a mountain, lying on the ground in the sun. I just don't know why he did it. Maybe the temperature is getting really high in here. That's what made him do it. And he said he learned it from his grandmother, after he has been drying for hours. I also felt the cold, finally put some clothes on, and returned to their food storage. I suddenly found something unexpected. A lot of feathers appeared on the ground. This frightened him into looking at his food. Turns out there's nothing there. Looks like he thought it was safe. It's not good. It's like District 13 in Jackie Chan's Adventures. You can never guard against the right people. And Jack on the other side, to check out the nets you've set up. I picked it up and found there's nothing behind it. Looks like this guy's been working for nothing. I have to say this guy's pretty unlucky. I haven't eaten meat since I've been here. You don't know what to rely on from day to day. Just made it this far. The nets are being rearranged by him. They put it down in a river. This time he's done it. And I said a little prayer. I wish he'd caught a fish, or we're going to have to drop another one. Jack was in the clear for a while. I'm going to wash my clothes. I didn't know he was doing it. But first he boiled the water. And they keep filling it with wood. Keep the flame alive. Waiting for a long time is boiling. When he was about to take it out, I accidentally burned my hand. It doesn't seem like a big problem. But in a place like this in the wild, if you don't take care of a wound like this, there will be serious problems. But now he doesn't have his medical kit. Only after I'm sure there's nothing else. Quickly picked up his things. Returned to camp. Treat the wound. That's the kind of wound, to be honest. You don't need so many medical wipes. After simple processing, he wrapped the gauze up. It feels like a bad technique. That was an ugly one. But he's not a professional. That's a good thing to be able to do. The 12th day of solitude arrives. Clegg at this time. I'm looking around. He was very serious. After his observation, moose used to come here and left a trail in the grass on one side. It's the poop of moose poles. Oh, it's a little disgusting. After he made sure of everything, he returned to the camp. Get ready for today's program. Make a fishing net to get the food in the back. When the ultimate prize, when he was making fishing nets. Turns out today is a special day. Someone's birthday is today. I don't know who it is. He kept it all secret. Watch him do it there. I find his technique seems very good. It didn't take long to finish making things. It's just not long enough. It's a little too small. After he came to the river, discovered the trap that was laid. A fish took the bait, and it's really big. This made him very excited. I didn't expect any surprises, especially the trap in the back. There are fish on the hook, too. As the 13th day comes, Clegg's nose ran red. To make sure the blood doesn't attract anything, he had to plug his nose with leaves to keep the blood from dripping on the floor. After 10 minutes of waiting, and the nose stopped bleeding, so he quickly set to work. That's rearranging the house. Because the temperature was very low last night, let him not sleep well. So he started working as a lumberjack. Clegg seems like a good fit. It's moving in this direction. It took a while to clean up the tree. I even got a lot of them. It's just that each one is so big. Looks like physical labor. But between the pieces of wood, why is the gap so big? How much moss to use here? To fill it all up. That's how he's been since morning. I worked until the afternoon. Just finished filling in one side. The gap on the other side hasn't started yet. I thought this was going to be easy. He made it to 4 o'clock. It's only half done. That's a long time to build. Makes him feel very tired now. There's no one else around. It left him very empty. Jack at the same time. Now, because of the problem at hand, there's a lot that can't be done already. There is even a constant risk of infection. It made him feel bad. Now he can't even pull a bow and shoot. Can only be all hope on the fishing nets that were laid out. If there's nothing on it. So the next few days, I'm going to have to starve myself. Jack arrives at his destination. Just pull the net up. Found 2 fish on it. That made him very happy. And then I don't have to go hungry. Not to mention the size of the fish on it. You can eat it and make a full recovery. Set the fish aside. I got some sticks right away. Set up a simple campfire. Have a feast. After putting the leaves on it, after dozens of minutes of cooking, the fish is finished. Jack was eating the fish. That's a good time. So many days. Meat at last. No more grass to fill your stomach. The 14th day is coming. Clegg also began to eat fish. But this is his breakfast. It's a little late, though. But for him, living alone in the wilderness, it was totally casual. When he is eating happily, suddenly I heard a noise. Quickly got up. Make observations from a distance. Then an unexpected visitor. He picked up the branch in anger. Just throw it in the direction of the bird. Although not successfully hit, but it was also successful in driving them away. So he decided to have a look. That weird noise back there followed him to a place. There was a deer in the distance, and it looks very laid back. There was no vigilance at all. So he quickly began to approach. Prepare to strike at it. After running some distance, within range of the bow, an arrow. He stopped quickly. Adjust your breathing. In case the moose found anything. It's very strange. How could you possibly find it this far away? Once we've located the moose, he immediately raised his bow and arrow. And then you can't watch it. We'll stay tuned for the next episode. Well, that's all for this program. Give it a thumbs up, and let's look forward to the next episode. What a surprise. While others are worrying about food, to the moose not far away. Aim and shoot straight out. Though the deer began to flee. But the arrow has been successful. After waiting for a while, Gleich ran after him. On the road, I was very excited. I even want to sing. After coming to the moose, hurriedly tried to move, and it didn't work out. Can only be performed in situ immediately, or else it'll be the other creatures, and that's meat that takes a lot of his time, to be transported from the field back to camp. The good news is it was all worth it. Inside the camp, Gleich is now still worried about the meat. Will be eaten by a bear or a wolf. After all, there are too many of them here. The meat has been sitting there too long. When the 15th day comes, Michaela got up early too. Now, she feels a particular pain in her feet. So he took the charcoal. Apply it to your toes. I don't know if it works. Look at her out hunting again. It should still have some effect. Then she found out a few days before. The traps worked. Not that there's any living thing in sight. But this is the way he made it. Let those stupid creatures go through here. Finally, to her trap. It's arriving only to find there's nothing there. This disappointed him somewhat. Suddenly, a chicken appeared in front. Michaela quickly stepped forward, pull the bow completely apart, and shoot it straight at the chicken. Although the first shot missed, good thing the last shot was the same. Since each player only has 9 arrows, she has to find a shot. After a search in the neighborhood, or finding an arrow hanging from a tree, and be good on the ground. And look at Gleich's meat. After all his hard work this morning, the meat has been successfully cut and transported. This made him very happy. But now there's another problem. That's food storage. After all, if these are out there, it will be eaten by many creatures. It also deteriorates because of warmth. After a light lunch, he came to the river. We're going to dig a storage room here. It's a big project, though. In order to be able to later in the time, there will be no hunger. It was worth it. Soon he was half done. Now simple after fixing. Gleich moved the meat inside. That's how it all works out. This simple storage room is complete. Don't look at this thing as simple. This is bear-proof. I can't believe he has no follow-up. Then look at Jack on the other side. He was lying by the river. Early retirement life. There's nothing there right now. But even so, he felt happy too. Suddenly, he remembered his trap. So he quickly got up and walked over. On the way, he found his harvest. No, these eyes really work. Such a long distance. I can see what's on the trap. But after he landed the fish, it looks like the fish still has something in its mouth. It was another little fish. Looks like he got 3 this time. Not the 2 I just said. After rescuing the fish, Jack is a happy man. I never thought I'd get this much. It was a turning point for survival. Not as good as Gleich, though. I mean, they got a lot of moose meat. But it's pretty good compared to the others. Let's look at Pez. He's now going to build a shelter. Last night, according to him, almost caught a cold. If he gets sick here, then we don't have to play anymore. If you don't get out of here soon, there is a threat to life. Not to mention the nightly temperature. On the decline, it was clear that cold air was coming. Although this shelter is a little small, but it's pretty obvious. This house is going to be so warm. After going inside, you can see there's fire in here. It feels like the smoke won't go out. And Tucker on the other side. I felt the need today. Tell us how he brushes his teeth. If the conditions are particularly poor, then do it with a toothbrush. If the conditions were better, take the charcoal and put in your mouth. Direct brushing. Although it was a little uncomfortable the first time, but in this case, I can still clean it. After that, let's get to work today. Build yourself a stove and shelter to let the future self able to maintain cooked food and own body temperature. Right now, all this physical work can lose weight well. Let your fat belly lose weight. Want to build these things? A foundation must be laid first, because he's done a lot of work before. wanted to build this thing. That's very simple. It'll be just a minute. Tucker has a prototype, but it was late, so he quickly chose to go back to sleep. Got to say, this one's pretty quick. So soon to the bed. And the reason he's awake now, because of the noise from outside. It's the wolf pack. That sounds pretty close. It scared the hell out of Tucker. Fortunately, the sound did not last, and a successful sleep again. The sky is after full light. Tucker woke up too. The sounds from last night tortured him, although the back successfully fell asleep. But it also makes the discovery. The new shelter needs to be built immediately. Make it as fast as possible. Those kinds of animal disturbances. Plus the weather is getting colder. I got Tucker thinking today. Just finish everything. After finishing the framing of the house, I look around and I think there's something missing. So he went out and cut some wood. It's not why he put it here. It's kind of weird. After a long period of construction, we can put the tarp down right now. When he finished, he danced immediately. Looks like this guy's got a lot on his plate. At the same time, Michaela pulled a nest out of a tree. Not why you took someone's home, and try to make it as a fire starter. It was so cruel. This is starting to cut wood again. It's kind of weird. It's like she's scraping the protruding branches. I don't think that's necessary. What a waste of time. Might as well be out hunting. Whether we catch them or not. At least go out and try. Then he seemed to have made another discovery. Quickly stopped the action. Picked up the camera and set off. He walked for a moment and then stopped. I looked down and there was a rabbit. No, what's going on here? A gift from heaven. Not only did he miss his big trap, and it hasn't been killed yet. Why is it hanging in front of her? The rabbit is being dissected. You can see there's not much meat. Remember to survive in the wild. This thing is really useless. It's better to go fishing. In finishing the work on the rabbit, Michaela grilled it. It's these people's stoves. They're all in their rooms. It's ripe when you see it. It feels like some kind of magical power. Let's go back to Pez. He then came to a river. I just saw it here. Several fish jumped out of the water. It feels like there should be a lot here. So he decided to give a try here. I wonder if I can get some fish. It's just this guy's method is a little weird. I can't believe I just threw it out. Slowly rewind the line. I don't know if I can catch it. Suddenly, he yanked the thread, successfully pulling the fish into the water. Yeah, that's it. This fishing technique of Pat's. It's a little bad. And look at Glyke on the other side. Then he noticed something. There's an otter stealing a meal. He was so frightened that he hurried forward, although the otters were driven away. But some of the meat was eaten. The stuff in the storage room. Just a little bit less. Fortunately, it's not a big problem. But just in case, he took the meat back. Before that, we still need to finish the meal. After cooking the meat in the pot, and immediately began to eat. Then the work began. First I got a jar. This thing is in the back 4. Store the fried oil. The rest of the meat is going to the shelter. So you can smoke them. To make the meat last longer. Because the man grew up poor. Know how to smoke this meat. So he moves very fast. Soon most of the meat. They're all in the shelter. Just a little too much meat. He still has a lot of work to do. Let's not look at that. After he hung up the meat, a fire was immediately lit and put in the house. That looks like a lot of smoke. Should be able to smoke all the meat. The time came late. Of course, Glyke, start making lunch. And on the other side of Pez, he's in his sanctuary. Start a party. I don't know if this guy's been alone too long, or because of the smoke. It's messing with his head. Being able to be happy alone. He was happy there for a while. And the hunt began. Of course, he came to the river. That's the guy. Why every day? Just watch the fish in the river do it. Maybe the jungle isn't so good. Put all your skill points into fishing. Or this is going to be a fishing trap. How can you be so skilled? The stick was whittled in a short time. Stick it in the ground as a fishing pole. According to him, I've loved it since I was a kid, so I'm very familiar with that. I guess I was right. Maybe it felt like one trap wasn't enough. He picked up another simple fishing rod, stood aside, and went fishing. I managed to get one at once. He quickly knocked it unconscious. So this thing doesn't stay alive. Why are you washing fish all of a sudden? And cut him up. Looks like he doesn't want to go back. That's when his trap responds. It just popped off the ground. Pez quickly picked it up. Soon the fish is pulled over by it. It's the same with a stick. I didn't know he was so good. For such a short time, I just hooked up with 2 fish. It's no more convenient than setting up a fishing net. But we haven't been serving fish since. I guess this stuff isn't so good after all. Let's look at Michaela on the other side. At this time, she also came to the river. It's just that there's no water. Then he saw a flock of swans ahead. Looks very happy. And so he began to think of his family again. That's direct attraction. Until the swans are far away. After everything is done, go back to Michaela inside the camp. Prepare to make a trap. One for the squirrels. First, I whittled a stick and set it up. I don't know why we're not continuing. I started thinking about my family there. Come on if you don't try. And that's how you won that big prize. How can I give my family a better future? Even now, in isolation. But I chose this path. Then stick with it. She's been in negative energy for a long time. Just sit there, constantly wiping away tears. He's even cursing at himself. There's a lot of mothering in those words. Until she turns the camera off. Why do I get the feeling she's dropping out? When the 18th day comes, Michaela was standing in a beautiful spot. I don't know what she was doing there. Until the light of day. I came to the fishing net. Start bringing things ashore. Seems to have recovered. Not thinking about quitting the game. Oh, you lost it again. The operation is very confusing. You're still there in the camp. I really didn't want it to come to this. Looks like Michaela wants out. Sure enough, I sat there for a while. I picked up the satellite phone, announced the withdrawal when the show crew arrives, and Michaela told me why. No one said anything for too long. I miss my family very much. I feel like I'm having a mental problem. Looks like her front operation. There's a reason, but Michaela has done a great job. To last that long in the game, the guys up front didn't make it. Even if you don't make it to the grand prize, there's something else to be gained here too. Well, that's all for this program. Give it a thumbs up, and let's look forward to the next episode.